Hello students, please pick up a new green DIS if you haven't already done so. Here is your warm-up for today. Use your notes from last week to try and complete this. If you have not seen the video from last week, please sign on to my website and access that, and make sure you pick up the notes packet for this unit under Friday on the geometry bulletin board. If the teacher in the room can please hit pause and give them a chance to do the warm-up. Okay, so to do this warm-up here, what we need to know is that these two are tangent. I know it wasn't written down the directions, that's my bad. Hopefully you assumed that they were tangent. So these two lines are tangent and they're meeting at the exact same point J. So what that means is that these 2 points or 2 lines segments are going to be equal to each other. So what I can do is I can set them equal to each other. So 3x squared minus 10 is equal to 17. I'm going to add 10 to both sides and divide by 3, and I'm left with x squared is equal to 9. So since it says x squared is equal to 9, the opposite of squaring something is to take the square root. So I'm going to square root both sides. The correct answer here is positive and negative 3. So remember from the video from last week, just remembering is that when you take the square root, as long as you can put it back into your equation and still get positive numbers, then you're fine. So over here, since we're going to be putting a negative or a positive 3 back in there, when I square it, it'll always become positive. And I don't have any x's on this side here, so I know that I can do positive and negative 3. It will not always work that way. Speaking of which, the exit slip from Friday, some of you tried to put a plus or minus. You weren't supposed to take any of the square roots at this point, since the x squared should cancel out. I'm going to go over this just to review it with you. I got a lot of good answers which were correct, so I just want to go over for those of you who are having some difficulties with this. So like I said, there is a right angle here, so this is a right triangle. So what I'm going to do is put these in the Pythagorean theorem. The thing to remember here is that this value here is x and this value here is 7. So this whole length here is represented by x plus 7. Now hopefully you got enough hint from me from how to solve this the other day, but if not, let's go over it. So what we can do is set up as the Pythagorean theorem, where these are the two legs, x and 12. So x squared plus 12 squared is equal to the quantity of x plus 7 squared. And so I told you on Friday, make sure you write this out twice, so it's going to look just like this. And then for those of you who are sophomores, you recognize the box method. That's when we set it up as a 2 by 2, and we have x plus 7 at the top here, or x plus 7 down here. It's going to be the same thing, and multiply everything together. Some of you might recognize the distributive method, where we distribute through with the x, or we distribute through with the 7. And for those of you who are freshmen, you might know it as FOIL. So when we multiply everything out, on the right-hand side, x times x is x squared, x times 7 is 7x. Then I'm going to distribute through with the 7, doing my inside and my last, getting 7x and 49, or distributing that 7. And then the two 7x's combined together to give us 14x. Now what happens here, and this should happen every time, I don't want to say that every time, most of the time, we'll end up with x squared and x squared. It should have the same value on both sides, so I'm not going to expect you to factor. So those two things are going to cancel out. And what I'm left with now is 144 equals 14x plus 49. So what you can see here, let me erase this so I know something's going to pop up, is I'm now just going to solve this like a regular equation. I'm going to subtract 49 on both sides, and I'm going to divide both sides by 14. So for those of you who got about 6.79, or if you wrote 6.78, or if you wrote 6.8, I took all those answers. So I got a lot of good answers. There were a lot of correct ones. A couple of them were some little errors. So hopefully this corrected it for you. You'll still get some practice on that today. So speaking about today, what you're going to be doing is there is a blue sheet that the substitute in the room has. You're going to work on that practice worksheet. So it's 10.1 practice A on it. You may work with somebody or you can work by yourself. It doesn't make a difference. As you complete the problems, you should see on the back that there is an answer sheet. I want you to make sure you're putting your answers on the back of your worksheet. So everybody in the room should be doing their own paper. Everybody should be getting answers on the back. I also expected at the end of the period that you're turning in that worksheet with the work attached to it. So I have instructed the substitute to make sure that she is or he is collecting the blue papers with the attached sheet to them. The green DISs still get turned into the front of the room. If the substitute in the room can please hit the pause button and allow the students time to work on the blue paper for today. When there's about 5 minutes left of class, please hit play and watch the rest of this video for the closure. Here's today closure. Since I wasn't here on Friday or today, I want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with the topics. Please write down what topics about tangents do you still have questions about, whether it be an example or not understanding what a tangent is or any of the definitions that we went through. So please write down what you're having misunderstandings. If you're not having any misunderstandings, go ahead and write none so that way I can kind of weed out the ones who need some help and who don't. I will be here tomorrow, so please make sure you're turning everything in. I am going to be grading those blue sheets once I get back to school and actually giving you a grade for them. So I am expecting work on every problem for those. I'll see you tomorrow.